It's Monday, November 27th. I'm Geoff Schwartz, and this is Geoff Schwartz is Smarter Than You. We're live on Twitter and YouTube, and we're on your podcast platform of choice. Thank you for joining us as usual. Our Monday NFL recap. We had a lot of NFL spread over a lot of days. Hope everyone had a fabulous Thanksgiving break. And on Monday, we're brought to you by PrizePicks. It's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. Go to PrizePicks and use code GSSY for a first deposit match up to $100. You pick 2 to 6 players. If they will go more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you win up to 25 times your money on any entry. We're making these selections for the Monday Night Football game between the Bears and Vikings at the end of the show. Gabe, it was a Thanksgiving break. My kids are back at school, thankfully. 5 days with no school makes them go a little bit nuts. But my Thanksgiving was good. How was yours, my friend?
Fine. Thank you for asking. Same challenge here. A lot of kids at home. A little dose of COVID at the front end of the whole thing. So, not as fun and restful as it usually is, but everyone's healthy now and everyone's back at school now. So we're good.
Are your kids like Thanksgiving eaters? Do they eat the adult food, or are they still like on chicken nuggets and macaroni?
No, turned out good question. First year that, a lot of the items made, they would eat. Not all of them. Not all of them. Don't get me wrong. Still some pickiness, but like a few of those things went down.
Good. My son, so my wife makes homemade macaroni and cheese. It's absolutely delicious.
Yes.
And yet my son still wants to eat the Velveeta boxed macaroni and cheese. We need to break him of that habit. Like, it's like, dude, here's some homemade, delicious macaroni and cheese your mom made you. No, can you make the box stuff for me? I gotta get mad at this, Gabe. I don't know what to do.
You know what, Geoff? Some people lack taste and are impatient. Just like ownership in your little hometown there, the Carolina Panthers said, Frank Reich, enough. 11 weeks. We've seen what we need to see. You are ruining our number one pick, Bryce Young. You are fired. The first major firing of the season is not one I expected. An impatient owner, I guess, in Carolina. What did you make of this firing as of Monday morning?
Oh, look at you. That's professional tease right there. Professional, not tease, a professional, kind of like cut. And
segue?
Like
Is that the word you're looking
for? There we go. Segue. I don't know. That's why I'm the one who does radio every day. Segue. Good segue. So yeah, I mean, look, we joked last night in our text thread that we thought that the first coach fired today would be Brandon Staley, not Frank Reich, even though it did feel like this was coming after the last couple of weeks. And look, here's the deal. David Tepper's had the team since May of 2018. May of 2018, Gabe, he'll be on his fourth head coach come this winter. He'll have had 3 interim coaches because he's fired Ron Rivera, he fired Matt Rule, and now he has fired Frank Reich. And he's finding, obviously, life as an owner is not the same as life as a hedge fund manager. The investments that you make in the hedge fund world and the financial world aren't the same that you make in the football world. And not only that, he's fired 2 managers, I believe, on the MLS side for Charlotte CFC or for CFC. And he's just not a good owner at the moment. They've done a lot of losing, and the finger's got to be pointed at him, right? Because he's the one in charge of hiring these coaches. And look, the rumors are, that the talk is, the sources are that he was the one who pushed to draft Bryce Young when it feels very obvious that CJ Stroud, I watched that entire Jags Texans game because we had money on the Texans. Stroud's really good. Bryce Young is not. Now, the offensive line stinks. There's no weapons. The play calling has been bad. I mean, there's plenty of other reasons why the Panthers aren't very good besides Bryce Young, and they have to fix those things. And maybe the general manager needs to go as well to get some better players in there. But it's very clear early on that CJ Stroud is much better than Bryce Young. Again, it might even out over time, right, when Bryce Young gets the weapons he needs. But Stroud is really good, and Bryce Young is bad. The Panthers they stink, dude. They are a bad football team. And Frank Reich was going to be gone at the end of the season. They just did it now, I guess, to get over with. But imagine, you're Frank Reich. Like, you come here, you get your life settled. This is the first place you played football, right? No, not the first place. I think it was the last place you played football in the National Football League. You start Panthers starting quarterback, and you don't even make an entire season before David Tepper fires you. Here's the thing, too, Gabe. Like, who's taking this job? Now, of course, a first-time coach would take this job in a heartbeat, right? Absolutely, they would take it. But you're not going to get a good coach. What good coach wants to come to the Panthers? You have no first-round pick next season. You have a roster where it's going to take multiple years to rebuild. You have a quarterback that may or may not be any good. You have an owner that's super impatient, and when things don't go well, you're fired. You're out of there. You get no chance to build things up. Who's taking this job? See, people said Jim Harbaugh because he has connection. No. Jim Harbaugh's not taking. He's not leaving Michigan for this job. So it's just a bad job. An owner that doesn't understand what's needed to win at this level and kind of maybe keep himself out of hiring coaches and being in charge of personnel. Let the people you've hired do those things. And so again, I'm not surprised that this happened. I'm a little bit surprised that it happened so quickly, and that honestly, Brandon Staley wasn't fired first. Brandon Staley needs to go immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I was stunned that we hadn't heard about a Staley firing by the time we went live this morning. By the time people listen to this on a run or walking the dog later, maybe that will have come down. Let me ask you this. If you're pot committed to the number one pick, which presumably the organization is not giving up on Bryce Young just because he's had a rough start, what kind of a coach do you bring in now? Because it seems like this owner's just getting spun by agents, right? Like he got spun on the number one pick. He got spun on 2 or 3 coach hires. He might be a little too easily swayed by powerful people. Who do you bring in to give Bryce Young the best possible chance at success? I don't mean a literal name, although if I'll take one if you got it. I mean, the kind of coach he needs.
Okay. Like Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, I think would be a great fit for that job, but he also might get the Chargers job, right? Like he's going to be the hottest commodity of any offensive mind. Look,
I think that's where Harbaugh's going, by the way. I've been saying it, but whatever.
Well, San Diego, Los Angeles. Yeah, I think that, look, that job, I'll tell you this, that job, when it opens, will have many coaches from the NFL ranks and the college ranks, just not Jim Harbaugh. They're going to want that job. Yeah, a lot of people are going to want that job because of Justin Herbert. So look, I think that people will say Eric Bieniemy is a name. I wouldn't wish this on Eric Bieniemy. I wouldn't wish this job on him. Like I think he would take it. It's a head coaching job, but it's a terrible spot to be in. Like you want the best head coaching job you can get. We know that Ron Rivera, at least reports, won't be back next season. Maybe Eric Bieniemy is able to interview for the Washington job and keep him there. I'm not rooting for Ron Rivera to get fired. I like Ron Rivera, but it would be nice if EB got like 4 games as a head coach to end the season. Just kind of get a little interim, status under your belt and get an opportunity to be a head coach for a couple weeks before you get a chance maybe next season. Look, could he just say, "Here, man, Bill Belichick, here's $20 million, come be your head coach next season"? I mean, is David Tepper going to swing for that? He's got all the money he needs. He didn't need money. He can pay whatever he wants, Gabe. It's not college football. I mean, you're not beholden to boosters and trying to find money. When Dion was hired by Colorado, the athletic director said, "Yeah, we still have to find the money to pay Dion," right? Like, that's not a situation. Dave Tepper he has the money. He can pay whatever he wants. Does he just say, "Okay, Bill Belichick, here's $20 million, come be our head coach"? And that would be a disaster, by the way. I think so. I don't know who it would be. It has to be an offensive guy, in my opinion. A young, bright mind who can work with Bryce Young and make the best out of what they have. They need better players too. That's the thing. Like they need to pick better football players. So it feels like a long uphill climb, where the Chargers, who should absolutely fire Brandon Staley, not an uphill climb. You have Justin Herbert. And it's absolutely, really, it's the perfect job, right? It's a job that every coach is going to want because of Herbert. He is, I saw the tweet today. I'm going to pull it up, Gabe. It's really explanatory about, and Hank sent this over. Tim Risky on at PFF_Moo. He works for PFF. Says, if you think about it, Eli Manning was worse at every single on-field trait, but he was a better QB than Justin Herbert because he refused to play for the Chargers. Like, yeah, it's that simple, right? The Chargers game last night was within 3 points with 2 minutes left, which is every Charger game, Gabe. First defensive play of the game. Do you remember what happened for the Chargers last night?
Of the game?
Yeah, the Chargers' first play on defense. Do you remember what happened?
No, I didn't get to tune in until the fourth quarter.
Okay. They had 12 men on the field. They had to call timeout. 12 men on the field. So is that a good coach team? 12 men on the field on your first defensive play of the game.
Fired up, man. He's got them fired up. Everyone's
so excited to play. They're just a bad coach team. And the breaks didn't go their way. The first drive that was a late hand Justin Herbert absolutely was. It wasn't called. I mean, Yeah, but Staley is not. This team is not getting better. This team is floundering with the talent they have on the field, and you're wasting Justin Herbert. You have to find someone to coach Justin Herbert.
One of the cool takes last night, also among our colleagues here, Matt Ford, with a brief look at his phone, points out nothing's ever Justin Herbert's fault. I don't agree with this take, but a lot of people were like, can we maybe just give him a little bit of blame? The turnovers, the decisions, the failed drives at the end of the game. Like, I have to admit, I love Justin Herbert, but like, kind of defend your boy a little bit. He didn't look great.
Well, no, he didn't look great at times. But the thing that always
crunch time specifically,
the thing that always strikes me is like, it's hard to pinpoint like an actual thing that he does poorly in those situations. Like what
can I give you one thing that I noticed?
Yeah. Yes.
Awareness. He seems completely unaware of his blind side. Why does he keep getting hit and stripped in weird ways when he should be thinking maybe somebody's about to rip my arm off?
Because I think he's just trying to make a play in the pocket and trying to just get the ball downfield, and because he knows he's got to make a bunch of plays because no one else is going to do it for him.
But okay, so the other quarterback I pay close attention to in this town doesn't just wait in the pocket. He climbs the pocket, so to speak, or scrambles around, and that's infuriating and dangerous at times too. But, should Justin Herbert every now and then just say, this play sucks, and just go make a play up and not stay in the pocket where he's getting mauled?
Yeah, I mean, that's just never been him as a player. Like, that's just, when I watch him back to Oregon, it's not what he did as a player. I just, look, I think that there's certainly blame to put on Herbert because you're right. At the end of these games, either they're not making enough plays. But I also think when you have a coach like Brandon Staley that doesn't prepare his team well each week, you will continually put yourself in the situation. Are you telling me that like Justin Herbert wouldn't be good with a good head coach?
No,
like I think it's just, I think that the Staley kind of, it just sort of bleeds itself down to the team. Like this is poor coaching, this poor preparation, sort of just bleeds itself all the way down to the quarterback, who I think at times just tries to do too much because he knows there's no other chance to win.
Yeah, and by the way, the Ravens look pretty good. And I mean, that was an eye opener. I think we should spend 1 second on them. The story was failure by the Chargers, but Ravens have clearly established themselves as the 1 seed in the AFC. Sure, your Chiefs played a much better game, or certainly a much better second half. Pat looked like peak Pat. All of a sudden, he's got some receivers. 2 dudes, Rishi Rice and Justin Watson, look like favorite targets all of a sudden. I'm not convinced about either of them yet, but the take makers out there are. What's your read on the Chiefs as opposed to the Ravens? Because the Ravens have the advantage right now.
Look, the Chiefs always get the benefit of the doubt because they have proven now over 4 seasons that they win a bunch of playoff games and make Super Bowls, right?
Right.
Pat Mahomes has lost three playoff games, right? Including Super Bowl. He's lost 2 games at home in overtime, one to the Patriots and one to the Bengals by 3 points each, and then got killed in that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay when the offensive line was beat up. So we've seen them in the playoffs win a lot of these. Now they haven't been on the road yet. And maybe this year that they have to go to Baltimore, right? And play the Ravens and things change. We've also seen the Ravens in the playoffs. Now, last year was without Lamar Jackson, but we've seen them in the playoffs just not look quite as good as they were in the regular season. And like that's what we've again. Ravens are really good. Chiefs are really good. Go in the postseason. We know what the Chiefs can do. Do we know what the Ravens can do yet? Right? And then that for a lot of us, that's sort of I think where we're at. Ravens are showing all the signs of being a Super Bowl caliber football team, but they haven't done the postseason yet. Same, by the way, with other teams like the Cowboys, who look really good all the time. They haven't done the postseason yet, right? Like so to me, I still lean on the Chiefs because if Rishi Rice, by the way, who I have said for weeks now on this podcast, has to be the guy for Patrick Mahomes. Yep. If he catches the freaking football, he's the guy for Patrick Mahomes. He dropped 1 pass, but he looked great otherwise. If that becomes the guy for them, that's enough to win a lot of football games. And so the Chiefs were now 14-0, right? And they won the game 31-17. So I'm not a math major, but with a 31-3, that's outscoring the Raiders there. So Chiefs look good. The Ravens look really good, though. Their defense is good. Lamar's playing well. I like the change in offense coordinator, obviously, paid off for them, and Todd Monken bringing it in. And it means to be raced to be the one seed. It does feel like the one seed is down to them too. I don't think the Dolphins, who have lost to the Chiefs, are going to be in that discussion. Jacksonville, obviously, big win this past weekend, but the Chiefs have beat Jacksonville as well, so they're ahead of them. The stunning thing in the AFC, Gabe, is the Buffalo Bills. They are 6-6 right now. You blame whoever you want. I know there's, Josh Allen played well yesterday, but they didn't get it done. But the Bills are 6-6 right now. They're actually behind the Denver Broncos in the postseason standings. Buffalo still has to play the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. They're not going to make the playoffs, Gabe.
No, they're not, and they don't deserve to. Whatever they had, whatever magic they had in these wild, close games the last few years, at least regular season games, that stuff dried up, man. I was watching and I was like, I cannot believe that the Eagles are going to pull this game out and win. And so I'm going to go from the Bills, which I think is a time saver because you're right. They're not a playoff team, and I don't know what they are moving forward, period. Let's talk about the Eagles side of this. I think people who listen to this show know this. I am a big fan of Skip. I know a lot of people who absorb takes are not necessarily fans of Skip, but I will have to say I don't agree with Skip on this one. Let me read you a take. I want your reaction, not about Skip the person, but about this idea, Geoff. The Dallas Cowboys are obviously better than the Philadelphia Eagles, his words. 4 straight games, they've trailed at half and been outgained. 4 straight, they've lived on the edge without falling off it. Their luck will run out. I view it the complete opposite way, which is they somehow have beaten very good teams in very difficult situations. What say you?
So it's not about kind of, to me, the wins. It's how they're winning, right? They're doing it in different ways each week, which I think is important, right? It's not one way to win, where I think sometimes teams that look at the Eagles and play like them sometimes just sort of win one way, but they're doing it many different ways, right? Last night was obviously an offensive game, right? The offense had to perform at a high level. 2 weeks ago, the defense played well against Kansas City, right? It's different ways they're winning. And the common denominator to me is just Jalen Hurts is just a baller, man. He's a good football player. Never rattled, never 2 up, 2 down, always even keel. And you can see that the importance of building up the roster in the trenches, the importance of adding an A.J. Brown, the importance of drafting, they draft and develop well in Philadelphia. It all matters. It all plays each week. And this is the important part of why you need to do those things at a high level. They've lost 3 games in the last 2 years. I want to say 3 regular season games in the last 2 years.
Their record's incredible.
No, I'm sorry. I think Jalen Hurts actually, the starter the last 2 years, has lost 2 games.
I heard the same stat yesterday, and I think it looked like he was going to take his 3rd L.
Yeah. I think he was 14-1 last season, and then obviously this year they're 9 or 10-1. So, I mean, yeah, sure. But the thing about the Cowboys, and I know Skip's a Cowboys fan, obviously, is that the Cowboys got blown by the Niners and lost to the Eagles. The Cowboys haven't proven they can beat any of these teams.
To the Eagles.
The Eagles beat Kansas City. Now the Eagles and Niners play this weekend. This will be a great test. The Eagles are coming off of 2 really sort of physical, close football games. I mean, there could be a little bit of exhaustion from that when you play a Niners team that hasn't had it as tough as you have the last couple of weeks. So the Niners are, by the way, off a longer rest because they played Thursday night. So we'll find out kind of where both teams are at in this game. But the Eagles are very much legit. They're winning in different ways, but they're winning most importantly in the offensive defensive lines with a quarterback who has just no fear, man. He's just a great leader. I didn't think he'd be this good in the NFL. I didn't think he'd be terrible, but I just didn't see him being able to be as accurate and sort of lead a passing attack like he has in the NFL. And he's been great this year. And I think that, to discount them for the way they've won the last couple of weeks, I think is wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us media types, when Nick Saban wrote him off in the most clutch spot he'd ever been in, we sort of forgot about him until now, a full Super Bowl run and an amazing start to this season in. We're like, oh yeah, that guy, he was always great. It's a perception thing. So we'll get the real test against the Niners. I don't see him winning that game. Then they have Sunday Night Football at Dallas. That's I guess a test and a test to Skip's theory. And then the Seahawks, who, we wanted to believe were something. They're probably not a thing. Let me ask you this one, because I think you're always great at these kinds of details. And sorry, because this is, if you didn't watch the game, this is maybe a hard thing for me to describe. But on what set up the game tying field goal that forced overtime, Jason Kelce made two sort of boneheaded plays, penalties that seemed avoidable and very out of character for him, because he's so in command of that offensive line and what's going on. But like false start calls when he's the guy snapping it. How does that happen? What's going on there?
Oh, okay. So one of them, it looked like he started to sort of move his body back before he snapped the ball, which I mean, just naturally happened. I think he was waiting for a snap count. Maybe didn't come on the time he thought it would. So he was kind of like out of his stance, like I'm falling down.
Got it.
And the other one, I think he just flinched his knee while he was trying
in both. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of them, he like moved his whole body back. The other one, I think, is right knee. I think it was before he went to take a knee and talk to Jalen Hurts. I think he just did it too early. He realized he might have not, had to do in that spot. But yeah, I mean, he jumped twice and it didn't matter. Didn't matter at all. The Eagles just went downfield and made more plays. The touchdown call, the call I put on my Twitter feed at Geoff Schwartz. The touchdown was so nice. The overtime play. The Bills were in a bad defense for it and just get torched.
Yeah. Well, my son analyzed it as awesome. He called it a trick play. I'm not sure that's what it was. Hey, listen, Warren Sharp, good follow, I think, online, wrote this up. He said, let's talk about NFL refs part 362. The Eagles are 4-0 with Sean Hockley as the ref since Nick Sirianni was hired. They're also 4-0 against the spread. This was during the game. So let's see how it's playing out so far, he writes. First half penalty distribution, 10 penalties for 75 yards on the Bills, 1 penalty for 5 yards on Eagles. Obviously, we just noted a couple key penalties called against the Eagles late in the game, but I have to ask, is this the kind of theory that players actually think has merit? That certain officials and certain coaches or teams, there's some sort of favoritism, or I don't want to call it collusion or anything like that, but do certain refs just notably give certain teams a little help? NBA guys obviously think that.
The conspiracy stuff with this refereeing, man, it's just exhausting. So Sean Hockley just is getting paid by someone to.
I'm not making that claim.
I know you're not, but just these accounts that do this all the time. Look, we know who the refs are before games. We get a report. Okay, they call more holdings. They do this. They do that. Of course, if the ref screws you out of a play, you think that's the ref doesn't like you. And I've never felt any time that that like the officials were out to get me or get us. And of course, there were games where it was lopsided, where you feel like they might have actually been out to get you. But deep in your heart and your mind, they're not actually pulling for a side or
that.
I know that, yeah. Other players,
but you're the guy who's smarter than me. I want to know, like, the average NFL player, can they set aside their emotion and accept that the guys are not in the tank for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your teammates playing many years in the league, you didn't hear a lot of grumbling about specific officials. No. But in the NBA, you do, right? That's like a real thing. Guys believe it's personal.
Yes. It's also a different type of referee system. Like in the NBA, those guys are talking to the referees every freaking play.
Right.
We don't do that. I talk to the officials. I think it's always good actually to be on the official side. Like that. I remember a time official told me like, I would have called that for a holding, but I just didn't basically because I like you. I was like basically like, hey, don't do that next time. But because mostly I was bullshitting with them all game. Like I went up and introduced myself, talked to them beforehand. Like that. I think it's important to go up to the referees and shake their hands and make nice with them, right? Yeah, I think it does buy you the benefit of the doubt sometimes. But I never felt like anyone was out to get me. And there were times where we MF'd referees. We get yelling matches. It doesn't matter. It's the heat of the game. I never thought anyone was out to get us.
Okay, but that's an interesting point you just made. So maybe because there's interactions between coaching staffs and officials prior to the game, right? Don't you have to review, hey, we're going to run a play that sort of looks like this. Would this formation be okay? We want you to be aware.
The coaches do, yeah.
Yeah, so perhaps Nick Sirianni is very charming or just very good at articulating his respect for the officials. Maybe he's doing something that Sean Hockley just responds well to.
I don't think it's but I don't think the disparity is 10 flags to 1, right?
Well,
Like
that evidence is a little bit
I
circumstantial.
mentioned one time that it happened to me where the referee was like, "Yeah, like don't do that. I'm gonna call you again for it." Like that one time in 8 years. Like that was mostly because like like if a penalty is there, they're gonna call you for a penalty. If it's not there, they're not gonna call. Again, the officiating, look, it's not great right now, but people obsess over it so much. It's wild to me that people sit there in games and are penalty hawks, right? They look for penalties. They look to find ways that things should change because their eyeballs tell them. It's wild to me that people sit there with, and take time to watch football and take time to try to find penalties. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, well, we got more cameras than ever before, and they can shoot in slow-mo and get into angles we never had, and I think we're exposed to more stuff. It's the most controversial calls have 3 angles on them. So I think we just have an easier time forming an opinion. Let me ask you this. One team that has always had a complicated relationship with the rules, the Patriots. Love to see them lose. What a disgusting game that was against the Giants, but they lose to Tommy DeVito. They have a quarterback controversy. I don't know. Like, they have two bad quarterbacks in New England. Apparently, Bill Belichick maybe isn't great at picking quarterbacks. Here's my question to you. Well, a few of them. 1, does Belichick come back next year? 2, does anyone let him make decisions about quarterback ever again? And 3, should we have like a designated set of veteran quarterbacks who can step in and play when all these no-name third stringers are the ones who are going? You can address any of those.
The last one first.
Okay.
You text me this. Okay.
The stupidest one. Got it.
Who right now is in the veteran group of quarterbacks that are just waiting to be called upon? Like who are you putting in that group right now? Like,
well,
who is that for you?
This is a name I have banned from being spoken on this show
Carson
many
Wentz?
times. Yeah, I don't want to watch Carson Wentz, but even I will admit Carson Wentz is better than half the quarterbacks that played this weekend. Certainly Jameis Winston, I would rather watch than all these other guys.
So Jameis, like the Chiefs have Blaine Gabbert as a backup. What about?
I didn't even know that. Sure,
Marcus Mariota, backup. Okay,
give me Jameis and Mariota. That's a championship rematch. Give it to me.
The 2015 draft or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Fine. What happens after the 3 quarterbacks that we just mentioned dry up? You're in the same situation you are now.
I don't know. Do we need to, here's a real question. Do we need to rethink salary caps? Should there be money set aside for backup quarterbacks? Why the hell am I watching Bailey Zappi? Why is that? Why is Tim Boyle on an NFL football field?
Jeez, Tim Boyle was worse than Zach Wilson too. That was bad.
Of course he was. He wasn't even a good college quarterback. What is he doing out there?
It's a little bit of you, like, you still have attached to that Jets, aren't you? You're still watching the Jets. You're still into it. I mean, Rodgers might be back in a couple of weeks, buddy. It sounds like.
Oh, stop. No matter what, anyone you ever dated, you've seen their Facebook page since you broke up. Like, come on. Of course, I'm still Jets curious at times.
JTS, Jets. How do you feel about Saleh with the coloring of the beard? I feel it's going, the dark black beard sometimes. He cuts it off back and forth. I don't know.
Generally, my biggest issue with this younger crop of sort of the McVay era, I'll call it, a little too much beard grooming going on among these guys. A little too worried about their looks. I don't like it.
The worst offender of that might be Ryan Day, Ohio State head coach.
Ryan Day looks ridiculous. I'm thinking Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur's beard game is a little too much. McDaniel, we know he's into his look. McVay, of course, is very into his look. We need to, I think, more Shanahan's.
A little Kingsbury.
Yeah, Kingsbury, I don't like the way he operates. I think Kyle Shanahan is just a dork who's now starting to look kind of like an older guy, right? Doesn't he look kind of middle-aged now?
He's at the forward hat. We see guys look like Andy Reid, who just love to eat and just kind of like, they're coaching ball. Or Belichick, who looks miserable all the time on the sidelines, just old and weathered. And then you have Pete Carroll, who looks like his energy of the 35-year-old at 70 years old as a coach. Yeah. Your boy Pete Carroll there. All right, I totally lost track of what we were doing because
Well,
I
I was
started
going
talking
to
about
just go further
coaches'
down the
bodies.
deep end of trashing the Patriots. Let me ask you this. Did you see Tom Brady's comments about mediocrity?
Yes.
What did you think
Yeah.
about his comments? And then I want to bring
Well,
up the
look,
comments against it.
I mean, it's stuff we've said before, right? The lack of practice time has hurt development of offensive linemen, hurt
Yeah.
development of quarterbacks. But his sentiments are sort of the reason why I think some older coaches have struggled because they have not adapted to the new football. They've not adapted to the way that football is practiced now and played now. And I think that you have to be able to adapt to, again, less practice time, less time on the field, less hitting. The best coaches have done that. And the ones that talk like Tom Brady, and I don't disagree with what Tom Brady said, are the ones that still struggle with making that transition.
Okay, but the reason that things are the way that they are is because the entire league rewrote its rules to protect
Right.
literally him. Up
Yeah.
until he was 43 years old, we were still going out of our way to keep this guy safe. While he cheated and broke every rule he could find, we created rules to make him better. And now he's complaining about it.
Look, it does sound like old man get off my lawn, right? Where I get that, and he certainly benefited from the rules, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong about what he said, though. That's the thing. Like, he's not wrong, but there's it's not going to change. Nothing's going to be done differently.
Well, I like that Alex Smith's response on ESPN pregame yesterday. He said, my biggest complaint with this, meaning Tom Brady's comments about a lot of mediocrity, my biggest complaint with this, he played in the most uncompetitive division in NFL history. You come out of training camp, the biggest cupcake division, you got a ticket to the playoffs right away. What was funny is Alex, who said this, well, obviously overlapped with Tom his whole career. He said it next to Teddy Bruschi and Randy Moss,
I know,
with
great.
Rex Ryan opposite him. Rex Ryan was the guy who got his ass kicked by the Patriots that whole time. He was the only competition in that division for 2 or 3 years. Not enough.
Yes, it was. Alex was saying that was fantastic.
He's
got a point, though, right? Like Tom Brady, you complain about this, but you also benefit from it.
Yeah. Also, by the way, Alex Smith, handsomer than Tom Brady. You see him side by side, it's not even close.
Tom Brady just looks like he's getting younger, and Alex Smith looks like the appropriate age.
And it's a better look than Tom Brady's. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I don't know how serious he is, but I know he's a great athlete, and I know he's a big guy, and I know he was at least a 2-sport star in high school in Atlanta. Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, Timberwolves, wants to play in the NFL simultaneously, not one and then the other. What would it take? I'm not going to say could he do it. What would it take to make that happen? The Dion thing with the NFL and the NBA.
Well, when's he going to do this? Because he's got to be in the offseason program. So he's going to skip the spring basketball season he can't just show up in September and do both, like, without playing football for years.
Without looking into his exact plan, can we assume that he'd be pretty light on the NBA during the NFL season and then go hard NBA come February?
Fine, I guess. From a practical perspective, Gabe.
Yeah.
The idea that you're going to play in the NBA and the NFL for a full season and then just show up and play for the Timberwolves the day after Super Bowl is insane. Like, your body will be beat to shit when you get the basketball court. What are we doing here? It's just it's not going to happen.
What if you were a wide receiver, not which I assume is what he's thinking he would be, or a quarterback in Tom Brady's mediocre league where quarterbacks aren't allowed to be hit? Could he then maybe pull it off?
So is he in your? This is so dumb. We're talking about this. Is he in your pool? Your veteran quarterback pool? Add him to the roster.
Sure. Yeah, I'd rather watch Anthony Edwards than Tim Boyle. I think we all would.
Look, I'll just tell you this: if Anthony Edwards played football, Gabe, he would get injured, and it would not be fun to watch. So that's my final say on that. This is
wet fart response to that fun question. Let's go. Let's go to a few other things.
Question. Oh, what if I want to be a pitcher in baseball? Can I do both at the same time while I play offensive line?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe in you. I think you could. I think you could do it.
All right, what's up next?
Can we save time on the following? We've already hit Tim Boyle. I don't want to say his name anymore. Russell Wilson and the Broncos. I hate this, man. I really do, but they've won 5 in a row.
Playing, Sean Payton got this thing right. Defense is
what are
playing
we supposed
better.
to say about them?
Hey, we might be wrong. Sean Payton got this team right, man. Wilson is playing like his old self a lot of times, scrambling around, making plays. Defense forcing a bunch of turnovers the last 4 or 5 weeks. They're playing better football. They haven't beat beat the Bills, beat the Chiefs. Like not all bad football teams. So give credit where credit is due. Sean Payton has turned. Dude, they lost 70-20, and they're like 6-5. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. And I refuse to watch their games, but I don't know. Looks like they play most parts of the game of football. They're doing right these days. Let's double check. Is Brandon Staley still with us? He's not been fired.
I mean, he's not dead, but I think he's still in the Chargers.
He's still the Chargers head coach. Okay.
Yeah.
This was bouncing around on a few text threads I'm a part of. Apparently, the Lions, they never had a chance against the Packers on Thanksgiving because of the moon. The moon was in some sort of alignment where they never win.
We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Okay. All right. Let me try this on you. Jason Sudeikis is now considered to be the person who introduced Travis Kelce to Taylor Swift. I don't know how he had that opportunity. I don't know why we would talk about this, but it's on the list.
My wife in the Taylor Swift thing is just so frustrating because she just will say stuff about football around Taylor and nothing to do with the game. Be like, is Taylor Swift there? I'm like, if the Eagles are playing right now, why would she be there? Well, it's Travis's brother's playing, right? He's the Eagle. He plays in the Eagles, so why would Taylor not be there? Like, just to annoy me. And it certainly works. And I'm over it. I'm way over it. I'm like, babe, you don't like football. Just what are you talking about? Just like stop talking about Taylor Swift all the time. She never mentioned Taylor Swift at all to me ever until she started dating a football player. Now she's obsessed with every movement of Taylor Swift.
Well, I think that other famous people, pop stars, are going to take a little play from the playbook. I don't know who the B-list Taylor Swifts are out there, but I guarantee you that they're all having their publicists floated out to TMZ or whoever that they're dating so-and-so or they might be at the game or, look out for them here and there because it's clearly worked to expand this audience. So I think you're not done with this yet, Geoff.
It certainly has. Who would be the next like football player and pop star to hook up?
I don't know. I don't know who the cool pop stars are. I saw Olivia Rodrigo at the USC game the other day, but she went to USC. I think her dad even might have played there. Like, there's some ties there. I don't think she's dating.
Who are your kids listening to nowadays? Your kids they're not into that yet?
Yeah, no, we're still in the Baby Shark world. They like, who they like is Alicia Keys. Girl on Fire. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I love Alicia Keys. Oh man. Let's take a break. Yeah. No,
wow. Okay.
Let's not get into this. I love
wow. There's another podcast for that probably.
We need to breathe while I think about Alicia Keys.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break for the people watching live. Don't go anywhere. Just have a sip of coffee. We'll be back in a second. For the listeners, this is your break. We'll come back. We'll hit college football and get some picks for tonight.
All right, we're back. Gabe, that Alicia Keys thing. Wow, buddy, I just didn't expect that. That's not what I expected to hear today.
What more could you want in a human?
You're right. I just haven't.
I mean, insanely talented. Obviously, a gorgeous person. Seems funny. Can act.
Have you met her before?
No.
In your industry, you're passing. You never met her at an event or a show.
No.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well. College football is here, Gabe. What do you want to talk about? How Oregon's
I want to talk about the chaos scenarios.
How Oregon's going to win against Washington on Friday, and Oregon will be a playoff team.
Well, yeah, you gave away a lot of your take right there. So let's just go right to it. The Pac-12 championship is the only one being done correctly right now. They have the two best teams playing against each other. One gets in, one goes home. Makes a lot of sense to me. You think it's going to be Oregon. I don't know. Washington got them the last time. We'll see. Why don't more conferences just do this? Why are we trapped in this old system? Why do I have to watch Iowa?
Well, look, the Pac-12 got rid of divisions a few years ago for this exact reason, right? They wanted to be able to have the two best teams play each other because
That's right.
they're often getting, a 7-5 team versus a 10-1 team or 11-1 team. And the Big Ten this last year, I think, in this last year of divisions, at least maybe they'll go back to next year with a 18-team league. But yeah, you would have basically Michigan and Penn State, I think, with a tiebreaker. I'm actually curious how the tiebreaker would work. But because Ohio State beat them, I wonder if it's just straight up. I think there was a three-way tiebreaker. What would have happened was the scenario I saw a couple weeks ago. So yeah, it would be basically. I think Michigan Ohio State would play again. One thing because Ohio State beat Penn State. It would be that simple.
I think
that'd
so.
be crazy. 2 weeks in a row to play a team like that. It's I've done that in the NFL before in the playoffs. We played Vikings Packers in week 17, then played them again 6 days later in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be crazy in college football to have it that way. Yeah, I mean, look, but in the other conferences, you get the matchups you want, right? We get Bama, Georgia, we get Texas, Oklahoma State. Just the Big Ten's the only one where we have that division set up.
All right, so then let's talk about all the dominoes. All right, so Georgia, Bama should be clean, right? I think we're just saying the winner is in and becomes the 1 seed. The loser is out.
No. If Alabama wins, Michigan's the 1 seed.
Okay, fine. Thank you for correcting me. If Alabama wins, they go in as the 2, presuming Michigan beat Iowa and goes in as the 1. But Michigan could easily lose to Iowa in like a 10-3 game.
No, they're not losing. But
they're not. Okay.
You could just forget that one, yeah.
Okay, Michigan's in. So Michigan is the 2 at worst. Georgia, Alabama. Georgia wins, they're the 1. Alabama wins, they're the 2. Is Georgia alive or they're just out?
No, it depends. No,
well, then you talk. Why am I talking? Make it smart.
I don't know what. Okay, so there's a doomsday scenario where a bunch of these teams, there's a bunch of upsets this weekend. Here's the easiest scenario is this. You ready? Georgia beats Alabama, they're the 1 seed. Michigan beats Iowa, they're the 2 seed. The Pac-12 champions, the 3 seed, and then Florida State's the 4 seed. Okay.
I know that's the easy scenario. I'm talking about the chaos scenarios.
I'm getting there.
All right.
The chaos scenarios begin, obviously, if Iowa beats Michigan, that's just not going to happen. Michigan's probably out of the discussion if everyone else wins, basically. But the chaos scenario is this. It is Georgia wins, Michigan wins, Oregon wins. Excuse me. It's Michigan wins, Oregon wins, Alabama wins, Texas wins. And so you have basically Michigan's in undefeated, Florida State's in undefeated. Then you have Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oregon, Washington, all 12-1. I believe I have that correct. Mm-hmm. That's where the chaos becomes because if Oregon wins, I think they're one of the best 3 teams in the country. I don't know how they would get left out. But then is Bama in over Georgia? Because then Texas would make the argument, well, we beat Alabama. Why are we not in? So does Oregon get bumped out and then Bama and Texas go in? And Oregon's out at 12-1 conference champion. Florida State, they're not the same team without Jordan Travis, but they keep winning. So I think they're going to be in. I tell you what, Gabe, the real chaos is going to be this, in my opinion. It's going to be Georgia wins, Michigan wins, Pac-12 champion, Florida State wins, Texas wins. Are you putting 12-1 Texas over 13-0 Florida State? That becomes because Georgia will murder Rodemaker, the Florida State backup quarterback. That will not be a fun game in the playoff. Georgia Texas will be a much more competitive football game, in my opinion. But if you go 13-0 in a Power 5 conference, quarterback and no quarterback, you should be in the playoff. That to me is the biggest chaos of it all. Is taking basically saying, sorry, Florida State, you went 13-0. You win every game on your schedule. You're not in the playoff because your quarterback is out. Which that to me is the biggest chaos scenario, Gabe, right there.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll do it because Florida State brings an entire region and is a brand. Remember, Florida State is essentially like the Cincinnati of this whole thing, except everyone involved can accept the idea of like, yeah, we could put a Florida State logo up there and that'll still look like a championship.
Yeah.
Most people are just tuning into the fact that, some of these teams aren't exactly how they started the season. But Florida State clearly can't provide the same competition as any of those other teams we just talked about.
Yeah. I think it's really, it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, Alabama would win a championship. They beat Georgia. I think it could certainly do it. There's no surprise. But I really think you're looking at. Look, if Alabama were to beat Georgia and win out, you would be like, oh, Alabama, of course. I really think if national championship perspective, there's really, it's Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Bama, Texas, Ohio State. Like I can all see them doing it. But again, some teams aren't going to win their conference. They just can't be in. Like Ohio State just is not going to be in at 11-1. They don't win their conference. So chaos is going to happen most likely, even though, again, for the entire playoff structure, Gabe, it's never been this way. It's never gotten to this point where we've had no chaos. We've had nothing whatsoever. And I don't think it happens this weekend. I take that back. If Bama were to win, that's when the shit gets bad quickly, right? I think Oregon wins. I think Texas wins. I think Florida State wins. And then you just, again, Georgia wins. The question becomes Texas or Florida State. Because here's the thing. Oregon is going to be ahead of Texas again tonight. Or not tonight, Tuesday night. If they beat Washington, they're not going below Texas now, right? So that's why the Pac-12 champion is in no matter what. Can't wait to watch it this weekend, Gabe. Be a lot of fun. Friday night, can't get here fast enough. 8 p.m. I have post-game radio after Oregon, Washington, and I'm either going to be crying because I'm sad or crying because I'm happy. So
I'll tune in and listen to you be emotional.
Is USC in the playoff discussion?
That was not necessary.
Oh, I was checking. I don't know. I've been out of the loop a little bit. I thought USC was going to be a playoff team this year. So that's why I was asking you.
Part of your case, bud, to get in over Texas is the fact that you beat USC. So why don't you just show a little bit of respect?
Yeah, a 7-5 USC. Yeah, I'm not.
They were ranked at the time. It seemed like a big deal. So just chill out. All right.
Have you hired
Tim
DC
Tebow?
yet?
Tim Tebow's going to the College Hall of Fame. Show some respect to the man. Greatest college football player of all time. Tim Tebow, by the way, imagine he came along now in the era of Tim Boyle and Tommy DeVito and Josh Dobbs. We'd be having a very different conversation about Tim Tebow and Vince Young's ability to win at that level.
I guess.
Tebow, kind of crap we have to watch.
Tebow won a game 2 for 8 as a passer. So good for him.
Fine. He was 1,000 times better than literally at least 10 guys who are starting in the NFL right now. It's not even debatable. But let's talk about the Bears and Vikings tonight. You're supposed to make me some money.
I will.
This is a fun game. Money. Surprisingly fun game. I'm into it.
Yeah. Well, look, when Justin Fields is back for the Bears, so we have a little bit of his ability to, to move the pocket and run and just, he can make plays. He's a great athlete, right? And Josh Dobbs, great story. We keep talking about Josh Dobbs, the ability for him to come in on his third team in this season, right? It was Browns preseason, Arizona, and the Vikings to come in and play as well as he has. So I think a game that really with, the Vikings win, I guess they're in the playoff hunt, but I'm not sure if people consider them a real playoff team. It's just kind of a fun, bad football team game. If that makes sense, right? You have 2 quarterbacks that are dynamic and sort of get after things. So here's what we're doing tonight for Prize Picks. We're doing a 3-score entry. You could build 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. It's promo code GSSY, get $100 match deposit. We're predicting whether or not a player goes more or less than their Prize Picks projection. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to follow along and watch Monday Night Football. So here we go. I am going to go with, I think this is an automatic one whenever Justin Fields plays. It's his rushing number more, right? Like 55.5 rush yards. I have more than 55.5 rush yards. Fields, when they're at their best as an offense, he's run the football. 59 yards last week. He's had 47 this year. That's a loss to Kansas City. He had 57 against a win against Washington. The week 1, he had 104 against Detroit in a very close loss. He has to run the football for them to be good. And it's built into the offense. I like the idea of wagering for him to have more anytime that we can, because it just has to, that is their offense, unfortunately, at times. Okay. So let's go to a couple of Vikings ones I like here. Jordan Addison, more than 3.5 receptions. He's had 6, 3, and 4 in the last 3 games. He's their best wide receiver at the moment, even though there is talk about Jefferson maybe seeing the field fairly soon. But again, I think against the Bears defense that gives up a ton of points, anytime you can sort of take the more option against the team they're playing, you have to do it. That's just the way I look at this game. And TJ Hawkinson, who has been a favorite target of Josh Dobbs, the tight end for the Vikings, I have him more than 63.5 receiving yards. Again, Bears defense gives up a ton of yards, a ton of points, and Hawkinson is sort of the blanket guy for Dobbs. He had 8 receptions last game, but only 35 yards. I mean, if you get 8 receptions most games, you're getting over this number by far, which he did the previous 2 games. So I have more than 59.5 rush yards for Justin Fields, more than 3.5 receptions for Jordan Addison, and more than 63.5 receiving yards for TJ Hawkinson. That's my Prize Pick square for tonight. Good way to watch the game. It's a lot of fun.
I love that square. I want to challenge it a little bit. I want to make sure we're doing the right thing here.
Okay.
I said it last week. I'll say it again. You have been nailing it with the QB rush yards overs. You
Yes.
found a soft spot in the zone, so to speak. You keep on hitting that. But this Fields one feels priced differently because he's known to be a runner. You took advantage when it was Pat and some other guys who are sneaky good runners, but not known for it. This guy's known for it. 59.5 is a lot of yards, man.
55.5. 55.
Oh, sorry, 55.5. Sorry.
Yeah, but this is part of the offense. They have plays for him to run the football. That's why I think it matters. And again, when they're at their best, they're running the football with him as an option. And I think that's why, again, I just feel like they did it last week. They're going to be back to doing it this week again, because that's what they have to do on offense to be good.
Yeah. I mean, they absolutely did it last week. And before he went down, this number feels about right. That one makes me nervous. I like Jordan Addison with more, and I like Hawkinson with more. Hawkinson really screwed me this year. I mocked my buddy who kept him in our fantasy league, and I mocked that as the worst keeper in history. And Hawkinson has been a stud all season long. PPR league, he's been
great. Yeah. I forgot to set my lineup for both my fantasy teams this week, and I think I'm going to take L's. Whatever.
That's all right, Jeff. We're here to make money on Prize Picks, and I think you've just done it. So that's a good 3 square. What's the promo code again? I
love my square. I like GSSY $100 match deposit. I like my promo code. I like my promo code. Obviously, I like my square tonight as well. I like both. I like both of those, and so we're glad to have Prize Picks along. Anything else, Gabe? Anything else we got here?
No, I think
has Staley been fired yet?
I still don't see it. I wonder what the reason would be. They're in town. They can assemble all the necessary people. I guess it was a late game. Maybe they all left the luxury box, went home. They haven't gotten up yet to talk about what they should do with Coach. I don't know.
It's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. No one's up yet?
Well, I don't know, buddy. It's been a long week. Maybe they just starting a little late today. I'm not sure.
All right, guys. Well, enjoyed the show as usual. If you're here this late, thank you. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Always like getting your feedback on the show. We'll be back on Friday with our wagering preview show. We're 2 and 3 last week. We still are above 55%. So we'll continue to try to win you guys some money there. Have a great couple of days. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk to you guys on Friday.